Hello again. British Royal Princess Michelle of Kent was in the country earlier this week to launch her new book, A Cheetah's Tale. Lindiwe Sithole caught up with her.
Princess Michael of Kent is a member of the British royal family. She's the wife of Queen Elizabeth's first cousin. She's launched her third book called A Cheetah's Tale, focusing on her life, her travels she took through Africa during the 1960s, and how she fell in love with cheetahs and the wildlife.
Princess Michael, it's such an honor to meet you, I have to say. I don't think I've met a British royal in my life. This is my first time.
Well, you're very kind, but I've been coming to your beautiful country since long before you were born, and it's always a thrill and an honor to come here.
You're launching your book, A Cheetah's Tale. In the book, it's quite interesting that you mentioned that you lived in Mozambique for a while with your dad at your dad's farm. How was that experience? What was it like growing up in that country?
Well, to be honest with you, I was never going to live there. My mother was, my parents were divorced, and my mother was very keen that my father shouldn't keep me, and so she wouldn't let me go until I finished school. And of course, I landed in Johannesburg, and I drove with my father from Johannesburg to Mozambique because he was bringing a puppy for me from Johannesburg, a boxer puppy, a sort of bribe, I think, to get to know the daughter, because we didn't know one another at all. But arriving in Mozambique, after all, I had this long drive, fascinated by the countryside, the animals. I'd seen some in the zoo, but it's not the same thing, is it?
Absolutely not.
And I was absolutely enchanted by it. And I tell in the book about the journey.
Is this where you start forming that special bond with the cheetah cub?
Well, my stepmother, as I say, was very kind and very clever. And she thought it would be good for me to bond with my father, so that knowing how good he was in the bush, and he knew so much about animals that had been his life in Europe and then in Africa, so that we should go on safari together. And so we did. And that was my first seeing animals in Africa, and that was remarkable. But then when we came back, we hadn't been back very long, when a chief of a village on his land came to say, "Boss, will you shoot a cheetah that's been taking children from the village?" And my father said, "Well, cheetahs don't eat humans. They don't eat humans." "Well, this one's had a leg caught in a trap and can't hunt." So it has. So he went with his two African hunters. You see, we had tsetse fly there, which meant no domestic cattle at the time. So we hunted game, so for food. So we had two African hunters who shot small game for our food. And he went with these two African hunters and me, because cheetahs, as I'm sure you know, they hunt early in the morning and in the evening. So this was evening, so if it was going hunting for a baby, this would be the time. So we went and waited outside the village, and sure enough, this cheetah appeared, dragging a hind leg. And so my father said, "This animal can't live, it can't hunt for itself." And he shot it. And though my first sight of a cheetah, which I've worshipped cheetahs all my life, is a dead one. And when we turned the body over, we saw she was lactating. She had cubs. But she was so thin, we couldn't believe that she had any cubs. But our two African hunters, they found her lair, and they found one little cub. Tiny, fitted into the palm of my hand. Cheetah cubs are very small, very, very small. Fitted in the palm of my hand. My father said, "Right, that'll keep you busy on your gap year." It wasn't called a gap year then, but it was my gap year between school and university. And so that's how it began. And how that little thing lived is nothing short of a miracle. But with the help of my stepmother and our local vet, who was a charmer, wonderful man, who really knew about the cats, and a lot of luck. And the book is the story of this cheetah and how it survived.
Yes, why did you write the book? Yes.
Well, I tell you, I wasn't ever going to write the book. It was my my own story. It was something for friends and family. It was something very precious to me, very dear to me. But the cheetah's in a lot of trouble. The cheetah's severely endangered. And therefore, I was persuaded by the 2 cheetah organizations, of which I'm the royal patron in Africa, to draw awareness. You know, awareness is the first step in conservation. If you know about the problem, you start thinking how I can help this problem. And so the point of this book is awareness, so that you know the cheetah is endangered. Everyone knows it's fast and beautiful, but how many people know it's endangered?
I don't think a lot of people know. I mean, please do give us a picture of it so that we know what the plight of the cheetah is.
Well, the plight of the cheetah is that from having been hundreds of thousands, they're down to about 7,000, about half of those in the wild, about half of them are in Namibia. Savannah is the natural countryside for a terrain for a cheetah. The problem they have there is it's easier for a cheetah to take a goat than to go and hunt an antelope. So it'll take a goat from a farmer. Farmer's not pleased. Farmer shoots the cheetah.
You said you are part of 2 organizations,
Yes.
one in South Africa and the other in
One in Namibia.
to raise awareness about the cheetah. What do the organizations do?
Right. Well, in South Africa, it's the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Center, the HESC. It's quite a mouthful. And that's up in the north at Hoedspruit, which has relatively little rainfall and therefore not much in the way of farming. And we've been releasing cheetahs there. We breed there. Now, cheetahs don't breed in captivity. It's another thing that makes it harder when people have cheetahs in zoos or in establishments. They don't breed in captivity. It's finding places to release that are safe, because we've had an explosion of lion population. Lions will kill cheetahs. So I'm looking for places to release cheetahs. And, you know, there are places in other countries, but we have to go through a lot of paperwork. The other place in Namibia is Dr. Laurie Marker, who's very known, who doesn't breed. In Namibia, not the law to breed there, but she takes in orphans because the farmers shooting cheetahs that attack their young create orphans, they bring orphans, and she will get them back into the wild, you know. So there's a lot to do for cheetahs, but we need more cheetahs. We're down to so few, and they should be in the wild. They should be running. They shouldn't be even in large enclosures, which we have. They should be running.
Running wild and free.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for joining
Anyway,
us.
thank you very much for having me.
What I wanted to quickly ask, I know now they're going to
Quick,
take us
come
away
on.
quickly. Finally, we all want to know, and we're also excited. Are you looking forward to the royal wedding? And what would you be looking like? What would you be wearing?
I have to tell you, there are few royal weddings coming up, and I can't tell you more than that. But there's a royal wedding closer to home to me that I'm also very excited about. So royal weddings are in the air.
Oh, lovely.
All right, what a beautiful interview and quite informative as well. And I must quickly apologize. I did call the royal Princess Michelle as opposed to Princess Michael. You learn something new every day. I beg your pardon, darling. And speaking of darlings, in the house we have Warda standing by with the latest sports update. Warda, what's happening?